Hello guys, welcome back. Today we're discussing speakers for those of us folks who are on a tight budget. Today we have here the Klipsch R51M bookshelf speakers. These retail for about 330 USD, but if you look hard enough online, they do come up on sale and they sell for about 250, 260 USD sometimes. So these are pretty big size bookshelf speakers, if you want to call them that. They're about 13 and a quarter inches high, 7 inches wide, and about 8 to 9 inches deep. And they have a 5 and a quarter spun IMG, copper spun IMG woofer, a 1-inch tweeter behind a 90 by 90 Tractrix horn. They are ported base reflex design, ported in the back, a single set of binding posts for speaker connections via spade, bare wire, or banana plugs. And they do come with magnetic grills, and I do like the way they did these grills. They really have this retro look to these grills. As far as the material, the fabric is concerned, it looks really cool. And I like the detail they've paid attention to coloring these screws. These screws are copper colored, so it looks pretty cool. Nice, decent finish. And I set these up on 26-inch speaker stands about 9 inches from the front wall, where I found the balance of the bass heft and definition to be optimal. So these are rated at pretty high sensitivity, about 93 decibel sensitivity, which is a good thing. They do not need gobs of power. I paired them with quite a few integrated amplifiers that I have on hand. I paired them with some vintage Sansui AU317s. I paired them with the Sony SD DH190. I also paired them with the Yamaha RS202, 35 watt Cambridge Audio AX35s, the Yamaha AS301. Both of those will be coming up for review soon as well. So ranging from 35 watts to 60 watts solid state power is what I gave these guys. And the thing that stood out is dynamics and punch listening to these speakers. They also threw a considerably wide soundstage. The farther you kept them, there was still a good, solid centerfill image. It improved as you brought them away from, farther away from the front wall and tilted them inwards. They gave you some sense of depth. They sounded kind of harsh though when the ears were right on axis with the tweeters. So facing them out in the room diminished that somewhat. We lost a little bit of depth in the listening, but that's okay. The soundstage was still super wide between the speakers, and the sound was punchy, dynamic. So give you an example, if you've heard Pancho Sanchez, his album called Freedom Sound, there is a track called Freedom Sound, which is track number 4 from that album, and you have Wilton Felder and Wayne Henderson playing tenor sax and trombone in that, and there are pieces of both electric and acoustic bass lines in that. And the bass lines on that are punchy and dynamic sounding through these guys. Next up in that album is a track called You Don't Know What Love Is, and here the piano comes in. And here I felt the higher notes on the piano were just a bit thin, just slightly thin, but otherwise very enjoyable soundstage and very pleasant to listen to. Um, the other thing about about these speakers I liked was the vocals. Vocals did really well. For example, here, this is Marvin Gaye's What's Going On. This is the Tamla reissue, and his vocals are fantastic in this, and it's a really well recorded album. What's Going On, and on side 2, Right On, and Inner City Blues. These are some of my favorite tracks in this album. The entire album is fantastic. His voice is recorded so well, and these guys do such a fantastic job of that. Then, to illustrate another example, is Christian McBride's Out Here. This is an RSD 2021 RSD release, quite well recorded. Track number 2 here is called Hallelujah Time. Here, there's some heavy percussion, heavy solo drumming pieces here, and it sounds really good here. Makes you want to turn up the volume, but you have to pair these with speakers that are slightly better than the RS202 and the Yamaha RS202 or the Sony SDR DH190 to get the best out of these. If you can go up to either the Yamaha AS301 or the Cambridge Audio AX35, it brings out the best that these guys are capable of. There is quite a bit of deep bass that these are capable of generating. Again, I would keep these about 9 to 10 inches, even a foot if you can, off from the rear walls. The more you get them close to the rear walls, they start sounding a bit boomy, and that starts sounding a little unpleasant, of course. As you brought them out, the separation of the instruments improved, and the bass tightened up. I also liked listening to classic rock music on these speakers. They just did a fantastic job. Let's talk about Santana's self-titled album. This is in original masters recording by MoFi, and Waiting, Evil Ways, and Soul Sacrifice are my favorite tracks in this album, and there's this really begs to be turned up, and these guys performed really, really decently with just decent amplification, but they really showed off what they're capable of doing when you stepped up to that 350 USD price range integrated amplifiers. And one more album that I really enjoyed listening to is Donald Byrd's Ethiopian Nights. This album is fantastic. It's recorded really well. It's got only 3 songs in it. Side 2 has a song called The Little Rasty, and it starts off with, again, drumming here, and this illustrates the soundstage this is capable of throwing and the punchy bass that's capable of throwing. Now, adding a subwoofer will always improve the low end. This is rated to go down to about 63 hertz, plus or minus 3 dB. That's where the port tuning is for these boxes. But what it does really well, really punchy sound. And if you're on a budget, you don't really need subwoofers unless you're listening to some recordings that have really deep bass information on them. This does a fantastic job, and they stand well on their own. Brought these speakers into review because of a request I saw from my viewers. They'd actually asked for an R41M. I'm sorry I couldn't get the R41Ms. They had also asked me for the Wharfdale D310s. I couldn't get those either, but I got the Wharfdale D320 speakers coming up for review. I'm going to try and do them this week and post it up as soon as I'm done with those. So I like the speaker a lot. If you're able to put these on speaker stands that are about 24 to 26 inches, and you can keep them about 9 to 12 inches off the front wall, I think these will be really good, especially if you listen to rock music. Have modest integrated amplifiers driving these. They don't need too much power. They perform quite well with just inexpensive integrated amplifiers. So I'll be doing a few more integrated amplifiers as well in the 350 USD range. The ones I mentioned, Cambridge AX35 and the Yamaha AS301. So I'm hoping this helps people that are just in their journey and spend about $300 or so on bookshelf speakers. Thank you for watching, guys. Please like, subscribe, and share. It's going to help me out a lot. Please stay tuned for the Wharfdale D320 speakers. Thanks once again.